Hi everyone.
Hello everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of Hijas de la Chicanx, de aquí y
de allá.
Las dos chicanas, orgullosas, mexicanas, americanas, and today we're coming to you from a studio that currently has the windows open. So if you hear little birds chirping in the background,
Todos los pajaritos.
It's because the windows are open. It's super hot today in Chicago.
It's really hot and we're trying not to overheat our bodies. I have a glass with ice cold water. I don't know how on earth, but Christy has a mug with tea. I don't know how she's drinking tea in this weather.
I really like the taste of lemon ginger tea.
Yeah.
Especially after I work out.
Do you feel like ginger?
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me feel like more healthier. So I decided to have tea in this super hot weather. But I finished it already, so we don't have to worry about me drinking tea and overheating with you on this podcast. So tell me, Ritzy, what have you been up to this week? It's been a whole week. What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been up to finishing all the things on my to-do list, and I haven't though. I've only gotten halfway through it. Te quería recomendar algo. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a new show on Netflix. I think it's called We Are the Champions. They just added it. And it's basically like every single episode talks about a competition that you maybe have not heard of. So there are funky competitions for throwing cheese down hills. I forget what the appropriate terms for that specific competition is, but there's one. And I'm getting somewhere with this.
Okay.
Don't give me that look.
I'm looking at you like, okay.
No, Netflix does not sponsor us. So for this episode, it's about yo-yo competitions.
Okay.
And I did not know that yo-yo competitions were predominantly male competitors.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't even know there was yo-yo competition.
Okay, first of all, same here.
Talk about
here.
Not being in loop.
Yeah. I think the last time I saw a yo-yo was a long time ago, and I think it might have been like my dad showing me how to do tricks with the yo-yo. But anyhow, bien chingón el episode.
Okay.
Porque the only girl who's competing in these competitions es una niña de México, de Ciudad de México.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Super, super cool. And I mean, this little girl, oh my God, there are a bunch of like teenage boys competing, and she's like the only girl, and she doesn't care, and she gets up on stage, and you have to watch this episode for the sake of it.
What is it called again? For
We Are the Champions.
And they want to We Are the Champions.
We Are the Champions, and it's the yo-yo competition episode. I don't know which episode number it is exactly.
Okay.
Pero esa niña se pone a entrenar en Ciudad de México, en el mismo parque al que iba yo, creo que es en La Condesa. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, I wish I could have met this girl, and I want to go back. When I go back to Mexico City, I'm sure maybe I'll have a chance to, maybe I can even interview her, you know.
That's
ya
true.
Estoy soñando,
putting
pero
it
bueno.
Out there, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Putting it on the universe.
Pero esa girl, honestamente, wow, me quedé súper impresionada. Y girl, lo que hace con el yo-yo, it's like airbending. Like,
really?
These are not the tricks of, like my dad, I remember when I was little, would teach me how to go up and down with the yo-yo. Like, these are tricks where she's like spinning it up and down her arm and under her legs and in the air.
Now I'm intrigued. I'm going to go look at
that episode. I didn't think I was going to be as interested in it. And then all of a sudden it blew my mind. I didn't know people could even do that with yo-yos, but this girl, super chingona.
Oh, that's super cool.
¿Qué otra cosa? I discovered something that I didn't think I was going to like.
What?
As you were showing me a video today about this secret on how to get rid of the seed in avocados. I did not know that I was going to get addicted to avocado and sugars. So this week, while I was in Chinatown, I tasted it's like an avocado smoothie.
Okay.
And I had heard about it. I watched this girl on YouTube who does like videos of funky ramen recipes and foods around the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was like, I only have aguacate with my tostadas or aguacate.
You've never had it?
Tortas.
Like, I've had it before, and it's really good. I've actually had avocado
this is not
ice
surprising
cream.
to you.
No.
Really?
No. I've actually seen that.
Well, it blew my mind.
Really? So it's like the first time you ever tried it?
Yeah. It was the creamiest.
Uh-huh.
Sweet and in a way that was not overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why, because I feel like it balances out the sweetness, and that's why I really appreciate it, because I've had avocado ice cream before and it's really good.
Oh my god.
I've had avocado like in a smoothie as well, really good. I've had what is it, spaghetti con aguacate. That was really good.
Spaghetti with avocado,
like the green spaghetti.
I've had it with, but it's con poblano, con chile poblano.
No, también le echan aguacate. There's this one recipe that I made and it had aguacate in it too.
Really?
I was like, wow, so aguacate is like really out here. If you don't like aguacate, you're
aguacate
missing
is
out.
not just on toast.
No, definitely not. No, but yeah, it's really good. So that's cool that you discovered that.
I discovered it, and I think I'm gonna get it again.
Nice.
I mean, when like there used to be a place near me in Bushwick that would have the avocado bubble tea, or I don't even know if it had bubbles or pearls in it. But I would be like put off by it because I always think of avocado with salty foods.
Yeah, of course.
But anyhow, it blew my mind, and obviously I was completely mistaken about it. I take back everything I said about avocado and sugar being combined, and avocado and honey, because this one had honey. But
that's really cool.
Anyhow, now you tell me, cariño, ¿tú qué has hecho? ¿Qué has comido? ¿Qué hay nuevo? ¿Qué secretos has mantenido?
I've been honestly running around like a crazy person this week. I feel like because Memorial Day was this past Monday, the day we released the last episode. Obviously, the week was shorter, but it felt really short. And I don't know if it's the fact that the vaccines are out, the pandemic is like slowing down, but everybody is out and about, and I just feel like my time is just like constantly trying to figure out like what to do next. And obviously, I've been working out every day, so I've been focused on that, but in between that I've been working on different projects for work. And I just feel like como que se me está acabando muy rápido el tiempo. It's already the end of the week. We're going into a new week, and I just feel like the weeks are just like flying by, and I don't have time to sit down, because we were in quarantine for a whole year and couple like months. And it just felt like you had just had so much time to sit down and do whatever you felt like you hadn't had time for before. But even like just driving to the gym, so there's a lot of people out all the time, constantly, whether they're having like coffee or lunch or going to the groom or whatever it is. There's just a lot of people out. I'm like, okay, so the world is starting to spin again completely, and it's either get with it or stay home. Or get stuck and stay home. So I mean, I'm sure like many people out there, I'm still kind of contemplating the idea of the world
reintegrating.
I mean, we didn't mention it on the podcast, but actually right before we started the podcast, and the reason why we didn't release our podcast as early as we wanted to was because my family and I got COVID, and it was a traumatizing experience. I don't want to talk much about it, but it was a traumatizing experience. So now that the world is starting to move forward, it's a little hard for me, because I've been living in this bubble of trying to take care of me and my family. But now the vaccine's out. Luckily, a lot of my good friends are nurses, so they're like, it's okay, the statistics show. But it's also, still trying to like slowly get back into the feel of things. And like I said, you either get with it or stay home.
Get with it
or get lost. But I mean, I'm young. Thank God, todavía tengo mucha vida por delante. Gracias a Dios. But you get what I'm saying?
I do. I think you're not alone in feeling that way. I mean, I never tested positive for COVID or that I went through it, but I can see where you're coming from with it, and I completely understand why you're feeling and how you're feeling.
And there's a lot of people out there that probably think, wow, you have to move forward. But the people that did get it, and the people that unfortunately lost somebody due to the pandemic, their mindset isn't programmed like that, and you sympathize with it. You didn't get it, but you see what happened to our world.
I see it that way because exactly what you said. I didn't go through it. You did not go through it to decide how somebody should be feeling about it. So yeah, I understand that. But you know what, though? Going back to that feeling of I have so many things to do and no tengo suficiente tiempo y parece que el tiempo está marchando en una carrera.
Sí.
I feel that, you know what, during the pandemic, I didn't feel so bad procrastinating. Some of the times, I really beat myself up for it.
Of course.
But I didn't feel as bad because I knew that I had to stay home if I wasn't running errands to go grocery shopping or to go to the post office or etc.
Of course.
And now I can't let myself procrastinate.
Yeah, no, I think we all, como dicen, ponte las pilas. Tenemos que poner las pilas. And like we said, just move forward, be conscious.
Yeah.
Just making sure that you're staying safe and everything. But we have to move forward somehow and put ourselves out there. So
yeah,
here we go. Keep on pushing forward. But enough about talking about what we've been up to this week. Let's just jump right into what we have in store for today's episode. You didn't tease it in the first couple of seconds, so I'm going to let you talk about what we have in store for today.
So today we are going to talk about Chicanx and Latinx music icons. We're going to feature a series of them and some of the initial or early Chicanx artists that paved the way for Chicanx artists from our generation. And then we have a very special surprise. We are featuring an artist today.
Yes, today we're giving life to the segment that we've both been wanting to do for a couple of episodes now, in which we feature a Chicanx, Latinx artist in any creative medium or entrepreneurship, anything, on our podcast. Like we mentioned before in previous episodes, we wanted to use our platform to give light to talent around the nation. I don't even want to say just Chicago. I think we should talk anywhere and everywhere. And we're all about supporting each other. So why not do it through our podcast, our platform? So today's first featured Chicanx artist is a young artist from Chicago that goes by the name of Jessie, and you can find her on Instagram, and she also has a YouTube and where she vlogs, and her handle is at Jessie's Música. She is a singer / songwriter, and I've been following her career for a good while now. I met her through one of my colleagues back in my radio days, but her and I became friends on social, and I love supporting her. I love what she's doing. She has such a great big talent. So I mentioned to Ritzy that it would be really cool to feature her as like the launch of this segment, and we're just both super excited.
I listened to some of her music, I saw some of her videos, and she has a phenomenal talent. And we asked her a few questions about how her Latinx and Chicanx identity plays a role in her music, how her music has been influenced by her lived experiences and or her ancestors, and how, you know, she expresses herself through the creative medium that she performs. She's a singer and a songwriter, so we wanted to learn more about that, and we wanted you guys to learn about her and to utilize our platform to give her exposure.
Yeah, so not only will you guys hear from her, maybe you can relate to her, but you can also find her through our social platforms at Hijas de la Chicanx podcast. So we'll add her on there as well. Go give our girl a follow, support fellow Chicanx, Latinx talent, and we'll get right into the episode.
Hi, Christy and Ritzy. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so proud of you guys, and you guys are just going to go so far with this. I think all of us Chicanos have to stay connected, and we have to just stay together because, I mean, we're a whole generation of us, and we're all so talented. We all have unique gifts, and I just thank you so much for having me on your podcast. For me, music has been the only type of expression that I've been able to use to really articulate my thoughts and my feelings. And I think that in high school, when I really intentionally started writing, I was mixing both of my languages up. I was mixing Spanish and English up because there was just things that in English I couldn't say, and in Spanish it sounded so much better, and vice versa. And so I think that that's where kind of like my Chicano side comes out a lot in my music, is like that bilingual songwriting. And in terms of how it has been influenced by my lived experiences, I mean, literally everything, like everything that if I don't live, and if we don't live, like if we just don't live as artists, we won't be able to create things. Like, there's just no way to be inspired by sitting in your room. I think a lot of the times we try to force things, especially me. Like, I'm speaking, you know, about myself when I say this, that a lot of times I try to force things and I try to say that I want to write another album, but the thing is that if I don't have content for another album, then what am I going to write, you know? So I think that it's my songwriting has been influenced a lot by just bad things that I've gone through, good things that I've gone through, mostly sad things, because those are the ones I think that break us down the most, and that's where we kind of need to express ourselves the most. But yeah, I mean, I thank you guys so much for bringing me on. Let's stay together, and let's all come together to create good art with each other. I think we're all so uniquely gifted, and we need to use that. So thank you guys so much. And my name is Jessie Garcia. I will see you guys soon. Please follow me on all of my social media at Jessie's Música, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. Thanks, guys.
Dude.
I felt that. I got chills, and I felt that tremendously.
Okay, we had to put the intro to that song so you guys could feel what we feel when we think of representing our culture growing up.
This was a performance by Linda Ronstadt, and she really was the reason why we're mentioning her. Is because she, in many ways, was a Chicanx artist that paved the way for other Chicanx artists, especially in the Southwest borderlands, and in a way of like reviving mariachi music and amplifying it and giving it exposure. For example, Linda with creo que fue la canción La Charriada. Sí. She performed La Charriada at the Grammys in the late 1980s.
Yes.
And that was the first time, girl, in the history of the Grammys that there was a Latinx artist singing, and it was mariachi, and it was Linda, if I'm not mistaken.
Because for those of you that maybe may not know, Linda was actually an American singer. So her whole career was based out of, you know, singing in rock, country. She had like light opera. And then later on, she did this album in where she dedicated this album to her dad. And it's actually called Canciones para mi padre.
Canciones de mi padre.
Canciones de mi padre.
Sí, Canciones de mi padre. Que it was actually, I actually, before recording this episode, I watched a documentary with Linda, and she has a memoir out there, a book called Simple Dreams. But so basically, Canciones de mi padre was a ballad book that was like an heirloom. I think it belonged to her grandfather.
Okay.
And her grandfather was from Sinaloa. Growing up in Tucson, Arizona, Linda, she later, I think it was after she moved to California, that she decided that she wanted to do an album featuring all of the ballads in the Canciones de mi Padre book. And this album, to this day, is in U.S. history one of the best-selling non-English language albums, and that's big.
Yeah, because she already had her trayectoria as an American singer, and then her introducing, I guess you could say, the world to this whole new style of music with all these beautiful instruments that we're used to seeing, you know, from the Mexico culture. And it really kind of like sparked interest in many people. And that's why you see that a lot of artists till this day tend to use a lot of these songs and sing them in their own way for example, Selena actually sings Tu Solo Tu, and that's already speaking to a whole new generation. And many people might think, wow, Tu Solo Tu is the Selena. But in reality, it's not. It comes from Linda. That comes from, like Ritzy mentioned, from even back then. So these are songs that have...
These are songs that were, most of them at least, created in 20th century Mexico, that then become disseminated as popular ballads. And then artists sing them, and they do their own interpretation of it.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, I think Linda is big because I remember watching in the documentary, and I really recommend it for you guys, called Linda and the Mockingbirds.
Where did you watch it?
I watched it on HBO Max.
Okay.
HBO Max. And the documentary, if you translate it to Spanish, is Linda y los Sensotles. And it's basically about a cultural academy, music academy and dance academy called Los Sensotles, which Linda is a big part of for the introduction of that documentary. Linda is about to perform mariachi for what seems a white audience. And the person interviewing her is asking her, like, are you just kind of singing these songs because you found it interesting, or how far back does your Mexican heritage go? Kind of questioning her identity.
Of course.
And Linda stands up and says, I'm Mexican American. She's on stage, and it's almost like a battleground for her, trying to stop the person interviewing her from pigeonholing her Mexican identity and her Mexicanidad or her Latinidad, which is oftentimes a complicated concept, because then we pigeonhole lo que es ser mexicano, or we pigeonhole lo que es y lo hacemos cuadriculado, no, eso no es suficiente mexicano, etc.
Claro.
Y Linda que quebra, no, esos términos tan cuadriculados.
No, and I think we could all, people who are listening to this, maybe you are not Chicanx, Latinx, but for many of us, we can all relate to that so easily, where we get questioned about what gives you the right to listen to this music, to talk about this one thing, and you constantly have to fight with, I grew up in a Mexican American household, and where I not only learned about my American, side, but I also learned about my Mexican side. And just like we spoke in the last episode, being the eldest child, sometimes you feel like the need to carry on things that our parents brought onto us, just like their parents brought onto them, and then to keep the generation going. So for her to have to say that
on stage
in front of, like you mentioned,
on stage as she's about to perform mariachi, and it didn't surprise me because I don't know if it was maybe in the LA Times, they were talking about, it was an opinion piece, and somebody's talking about the influence that Linda's album Canciones de mi Padre had on the writer. And he's talking about, at least in the opinion piece towards the end of it, how in the Rolling Stones magazine, it dismissed Canciones because, and I quote, they said that for the album cover and the kind of sort of vesture that she was utilizing, which is kind of the costume of the China Poblana, that she looked like a waitress who was nibbling at the guacamole. That's what can you believe it? They said that for the album cover. And so I think for Linda, it was maybe not necessarily the first time, because we had Lalo Guerrero and we had Ritchie, Valens, who were, these
who already started molding that idea in people's heads,
and making Chicano music, disseminating Chicano music. But I think that a lot of the times Linda, as a woman and as a Chicana growing up in the Southwest, had to contest this power and had to contest her identity. And we still have to today, right? Years later, we still do it all the time today.
And you would think right now, because the music has crossed so many borders, that many would not have to do that. But we constantly see, whether it's new artists or established artists, having to have the battle of explaining if they're American enough or if they're Mexican enough to have the right to sing a certain way. For example, some of the younger generation artists would be Becky G, Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, who constantly get put in this bubble of either being Mexican American enough or American enough, and they're constantly having to explain themselves. Just like another Chicanx artist, Jenny Rivera, she tapped into singing in Spanish due to her dad, and she ended up doing like reality shows and things later on in where she only spoke English but she sang in Spanish. So a lot of people felt portrayed through her, and that's why I think she had a lot of fame and a lot of people that really saw her as a down-to-earth girl, because they felt like they could relate to this girl that spoke English all the time. She had like this gangsta side to her, but she also proudly sang corridos, rancheras, a veces de repente mariachi, and people felt found with her.
And I think a lot of the time with Jenny Rivera, a lot of the time when she was performing on stage, she was sort of going into a space that we reserve for male artists only, right? The music, the genre that she's performing in, the lyrics that she incorporates in her music, right? Yeah. We reserve that only for a male sphere, right? And that shouldn't be the case. And I think that a lot of the time she broke that mold, and that's why her audience really, really loved her. So I think with Jenny Rivera, that's a really interesting case, and I'm sure that maybe for one of the episodes we could go in depth with her career and how she broke these really rigid definitions of what a woman can and cannot sing in a patriarchal society.
Yes, and she constantly named it in her music.
And she did, right?
She constantly did. So we find that these artists are great to have for us who are growing up, you know, in society, because it's good to have someone to look up to that you think, wow, I can relate to her. Just like for me with Selena, that's why I love her so much. Selena Quintanilla really broke a lot of those barriers of, oh, no puede cantar en español because she doesn't know any.
Because she lost her Spanish language, which that does not mean that you lose any of your Mexicanidad, because what is Mexicanidad, really?
Yeah, you really start to try to ask yourself that question, what is good enough? And there is no such thing, because just like we say in our phrase, de aquí y de allá, we proudly own that we're both from here and we're proudly from over there.
You know, for me, I don't listen to a lot of mainstream artists, but I do listen to, I know, for example, I love Chicano Batman. I listen to a lot of indie rock, alternative, cumbia. I listen to a lot of Latinx artists, but I think for me, the Chicanx artists that I listen to, and I know that I have on Spotify saved in some of my playlists, are Chicano Batman, Tatiana Hazel, Temporex, Amber Lucid. Amber Lucid is Mexican and Dominican, and I think of also some of the artists that aren't mainstream and maybe not spoken of as much, but are creating such a wonderful culture in Los Angeles, and those are all the Chicano punk rock bands. So there's a lot, but I think that.
And I'm sorry to cut you off really quick. I'm just going to throw this in here. I love that you mentioned that this one artist that you mentioned is Mexican and Dominican. Yeah. Because in doing my research, I found that Kid Cudi, who's a mainstream rapper, he comes from Mexican heritage. It just throws you in awe because you wouldn't expect it, for example, in the rap scene, in the English rap scene. But it's really cool when they really tap into their roots and kind of like showcase that through their music, or they speak on behalf of like people that probably think that they wouldn't be able to like speak in front of others because of, you know, their background. So carry on. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think it's nice, going off of that, I think it's nice when those really rigid boundaries are broken and you realize, oh, okay, he's Chicanx and he's performing in that genre, and he's breaking that sort of like demarcated line that doesn't always allow us to move over to a particular genre. I also think of going back to Linda because she's important. There was an interview in Remezcla with her, and she mentioned Los Tigres del Norte. And when I was little, I used to get really emotional when I would listen to La Jaula de Oro.
Okay.
And en La Jaula de Oro, los Tigres del Norte están hablando, ¿no?, sobre them coming to the U.S. and their child no longer knowing Spanish, and then the father feeling like he's working here and sure he has a salary, but he's still a prisoner of this gold gilded cage. And even though he maybe has a salary. And so I remember that I would get really emotional because the way that they sing it. But anyhow, Linda in the interview says the Tigres del Norte are bigger right there with the Rolling Stones, and yet they're largely invisible in the U.S. to white audiences. And so then she goes on to say that even though we're making history and we're paving the way, we are still largely invisible. And we
really are. We have a lot of work to do, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I love that we have artists like these because music is so universal. And I think that's why I appreciate it more than anything. I know that I always like constantly talk about music. And if you know me, you know that that's all I ever really am passionate about. But I love that it's really universal because you listen to music when you're getting ready to go somewhere. You listen to music when estás conviviendo con tu familia. You listen to music when you need to get out of a funk. So I wish that we did have that universal play in the U.S. with our music, but we still have a lot of work to do. And I'm just glad that our generation, for example, can sit down and talk about these kind of topics, because if you are older than us and you're probably thinking like, wow, these girls really do know about, and it's because we feel like we have a responsibility to carry this on through generations, and we really want to use like our platform to do so.
Right.
And that's why we decided to do this episode on this specific thing.
Right. And I think for me, aside from the obligation, for me it's so important in my career, my personal life, to be critically aware of my surroundings and to critically engage with the fact that why am I not reflected back all of the time when I'm watching television? Why don't I see myself mirrored back, right? And for example, not that the Grammys are big in my life, but the fact that with
people
Linda,
look forward to the Grammys, and we need to see that.
Right. But with Linda, I remember in the article that I read, the writer is he's giving a report about the Grammys, and he said, there was a surprise for Hispanic viewers because there was a Spanish Pepsi Cola commercial for them and the mariachi performance with Linda. And so that's why it's big, right? These things don't just happen because they happen. They're historically rooted, and you have to, I think for me, I have to be critically aware, and that's so important for me.
Correct, just like it is important to me too. So that's why we really found it important for us to feature somebody in this episode, and why not someone who has Mexican American descent as well, just like us, who is super passionate about what they do and who will be making a difference with their music, which is Jessie. So like we mentioned, we're so happy to have her on here. We're so happy to have a platform and where we speak about things that are important to us. And all of these artists, they really molded us.
Yeah, you and I have really different music tastes.
We really do. Can you guys tell with when we're talking? I was like more mainstream, and Yaritza was more...
You're like, who the flop is she talking about? But no... we have really different music tastes, and I think it's nice to see them interplay within this episode.
And Linda is actually the artist
that we both have in common.
La Cigarra,
you and I completely love.
I love Los Laureles. It's really cool to know that she's been an influence for such a long time, and even before that, like Yaritza or Ritzy mentioned, it came from her grandparents as well, and it's something that has just came through generations, and so we really hope that it keeps moving forward.
So with the end of this podcast, please, if you can, watch the documentary.
Where is it? I haven't even watched it. I want to watch it now.
It's so good. I wasn't dissecting it, but because I was just really enjoying and watching it. But just please, if you can watch it, it's Linda and the Mockingbirds, Linda y los Centotles. I watched it on HBO Max. If you have a subscription, you can watch it there.
HBO Max.
But it's such a wonderful documentary because you really see the experiences of Chicanx artists in the borderlands. Remember that Arizona, Colorado, Texas, California, ese territorio was not part of the U.S. until the early to mid 1800s, right? So what are the experiences of the Mexican Americans growing up in the Southwest? Please watch the documentary. The children there that talk about how music has influenced them, Christy, I think that you would really love.
Enjoy that. Yeah, as you're talking about it, I wish I knew. I just recently got HBO Max, so I will definitely tune in and let you know what I think of it. I love watching documentaries when it comes to artists because there's so much in the spotlight that people forget that they're actually human beings that go through things. So I always feel like I get more connected to them. So I will definitely add that to my watch list. Okay. But yeah, guys, that's it for today's episode. It was just pretty to the point. We love music. We love our heritage, and we love seeing it both clash.
We love music. I don't know who I would be without music.
Definitely. So with that, we're closing out the episode. I just want to remind you guys to follow us on our digital platforms, and you guys can find us at Hijas de la Chicanx podcast. I'll spell that out for you. It's HIJASDLCHICANX podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and we have a surprise for season 2 for TikTok. So if we're not super active on there, there's a reason for it, but we're not going to talk.
I forgot, and I was about to say we do have a surprise. Okay, because this is a surprise to me too.
No. We have a surprise for season 2. So TikTok is not super active right now, but the little bit that it's been active, we love hearing messages and talking to people on there. And you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, and Amazon Music. So that's it. We are to the end of the episode. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Thank you for sharing a bit of your day with us. We really hope that we sparked some kind of interest in your mind to what we talked about, and that you can share what we sparked an interest of on our social platforms. Thank you guys for listening. Ritzy, you want to close it off?
I just want to say happy Pride Month.
Yes, happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Remember to support the LGBTQ community and not buy from big corporations. If you can, please buy from the LGBTQ community. And as always, please remember that your voice matters.